As we return from the Thanksgiving holiday weekend, we're seeing U.S. equity markets at new record highs. Many Americans are focusing on Cyber Monday, but here on this trading floor, we're talking about risk events. Joining me now is Peter Cardillo for Standard Financial. Peter, great to have you here today.
Good to be back.
Well, as we look at the week ahead, we have plenty in terms of economic data, political developments, as well as Fed speeches. So what are you paying attention to this week?
Well, I think, the most important thing for the market now is, of course, the tax vote from the Senate, which is getting closer. And, of course, there are a lot of events, as you mentioned. Yellen will be testifying on the state of the economy this week. We have the Beige Book. We have several pieces of major economic news to come out. By the way, we had one today, new home sales, which really beat our expectations and surprised us on the strength of the climb. The health of the U.S. Housing market is pretty good and contributing to economic growth in the overall scheme of things.
And as we look at the economic calendar in the week ahead, we get plenty of global inflation figures, and that will continue to be monitored stateside as well as overseas. And on top of the tax reform expectations and Fed speeches this week, we have the OPEC meeting. Now, ahead of that meeting in Vienna, Austria, we're seeing WTI prices under pressure. So what do you expect to see on Thursday?
Well, I think a lot of the rise we saw last week was due to two factors. One, obviously, from a fundamental perspective, that the economy, that the oil market is healing. Then we had the pipeline situation up in Canada, so that added to the strength of the oil market. Quite frankly, on Friday we went up rather sharply, and there was really no news to account for it, from a market that rose rather sharply last week and approached the $60 level. So when you get near that level, obviously it's going to be a bit of a battle for the market participants.
And Peter, last but not least, before I let you go, I do want to talk about what we saw in the Asian markets, in particular for the Chinese equity markets. Now, we did see a downside for the equity markets over there, and it's no surprise given all the regulation and crackdown what that's happening. So what do you expect to see there?
I think the Asian markets, have done extremely well, and quite frankly, even the Chinese market has done very well, and the Shanghai, and it's been basically staying at very high levels. So I kind of think that that's probably going to follow the rest of the global markets. I don't see any real trouble ahead unless we get some sort of geopolitical surprise. But in general, the markets are going to play follow the leader. And so until we see any real break in any of the global markets, I think they'll continue to rally and follow what we're doing here in the States.
Okay, Peter, well, thank you so much for joining me today. And as always, thank you for insight and commentary.
My pleasure.